Hi, and welcome back to Old School. Today we're going to be in the emotional and spiritual and a little bit of the physical too when we deal with some beauty classes. And today we welcome our teacher, Deborah Rutherford, host of Behold Her Beauty podcast. Deborah is a Christian wife, writer, speaker, podcaster, and makeup artist. And I have a story about that too. And she desires to help you see yourself as God sees you, his beautiful daughters and sons. Along with her podcast, she has a blog and writes articles for many publications regarding beauty in every area as our King sees us. Welcome to class, Deborah.
Thank you so much, Michele. I'm so happy to be here.
I'm glad we finally got it together.
I know, and I love Old School and your podcast, and it's such a wonderful theme, and the different areas to be taught in. And so I'm grateful and honored to be here.
Thank you so much. Yes, that is the ultimate theme of Old School. Is it's supposed to parallel kind of my book and then the second book where the healing starts to come into place. And I want to talk with everyone of all walks about obtaining physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual health, and then hanging on to it, maintaining it, because it's like forgiveness or grace. Those things have to be new every morning. It's not a one-time transaction. So we have to stay on top of our mental and emotional and physical health in all these areas. So I love to have people on. And what I typically do is have you tell me your story. It can include like your testimony too, or I am interested in how you got walked through to the beauty that is seen by our Savior. So I would love to hear your story.
I started working in Los Angeles as a makeup artist probably 29 years ago.
Oh, you're old enough for that.
No, I am 64 years old. And so before that, I was in the music industry, and I probably did every job. I was a recording artist. I managed bands. I, wrote articles for newspapers. I just, however, and to try to make money, a lot of it too. But, and then before that, I was in theater. And so I'm kind of going backwards, but music was I really loved it. But circumstances happened and wasn't being able to make a living in it. And through a work injury, I had an opportunity to go to school. And my husband knew about being a makeup artist because he grew up with all the, the horror movies and stuff. And he was like, go be a makeup artist. And I had taken a class, a vocational class that told me I tested as an artistic scientific personality.
Wow.
To be doing science, just a little bit of science, art. And so it just showed you then the different fields you could go into. And so when I met with the director of the makeup school, she said, makeup is living art. And I thought, well, I like that. I could still do my art and then put it on someone else and they can go out and, do their thing. And I was just so grateful to have, I guess that was a second opportunity. I felt, that's something I was pretty good at quickly. Oh. And I was older too when I went to school. I was 34. So I had that wisdom. And that's when I really learned about transferable skills, that whatever you've done before adds up. And so writing kind of became on a hold for a while. It kept, for my journals, and then I started eventually writing we have a makeup magazine, so I write about the movies I'd worked on, or the makeup, things like that. And so at this time I was a prodigal daughter,
and had come to know the Lord earlier and was just kind of.
I was raised in the Catholic Church. Made Holy Communion, confirmation, and I in a dysfunctional family. So my father was alcoholic, and then I was molested by an uncle, and not a blood uncle, but it's probably the first time I've ever said this in public. So
I will make sure that there is a precursor to that for anybody listening, but I need you to know that's part of my journey as well. So you are in a safe place.
And I wasn't the first one in the family. It was a time when people didn't talk about things. And
Absolutely.
it was kind of hidden. And so I didn't tell anybody, and I thought I could kind of ward it off, kind of like I could handle it, just kind of avoid the person. But what it did to me at the time is that although my dad then got sober when I was 16, instead of rejoicing because this other thing happened right at the same time, I became really angry and disillusioned with who I thought God was. And I remember announcing to my grandparents, I'm on my dad's side, Mexican, and on my mom's side, from Arkansas, so kind of that kind of English, Irish, Welsh kind of mix. But I remember telling them I'm not going to go to church anymore, and they were like, "You're going to go to hell." And I was like, and in my young, naive mind, I said, "No, I need to walk both paths to know good and to help people." And so that, it's just, but that was my reaction, because I thought, if this man was accepted as a pious person in that environment, or the church around our family, because they didn't know. Some people knew, but I didn't know. I just thought, I don't want to be part of that, So that sent me into Hollywood and to, years of, what do they call it? Thinking what was right in my own mind, So those are my prodigal daughter years. But thankfully, God doesn't give up on us. He pursues us, and he's with us there. Like when I look back over everything, I was like, oh, he was with me there. He was with me there. There's, because I thought, because I have some poems and writing from back then where I'm like, God, where are you? Where am I? He was there. It was me who was, and then my husband was also a prodigal, but brought them to Christian church. And in about, I think it was around 2010, we were both, maybe a little bit before that, we're both feeling very spiritually empty. Our career was going really well. We were making money, but we just felt like empty. And really, that's when I really felt like God was directing us back to Him. And so a bunch of things kind of came at the same time, like with the passing of my mom's death. And I was able to, the passing of her death. And he started kind of, I guess, showing me like kind of signs, like, it was the day they were taking her off the machines, and I was driving to see her. And there were, right when I was about 15 minutes away from the hospital, 2 white doves came flying up through the cars ahead of me and up to my windshield and went up into the air. And I was like, there goes Mom. There she goes. And when I got to the hospital, the nurse said she had started the process about 15 minutes earlier, which is when I would see the doves. But then right before that, she had said to me, she had my sister call me and say, call your sister. She's in Eastern Europe. And my sister was like, is she okay? Because she's trying to tell my mom, no, she's at home, right? And my mom's like, call her now. And so I get on the phone with her. I say, Mom, I'm at home. I'm in Woodland Hills, California. I'm not in Eastern Europe. But I said, was I having a good time? And she said, yeah, you were having a good time. I just wanted your sister to check in on you. So she passes. Come that fall, I have a friend, and this is a whole other crazy story. And I won't tell it now, but someday I may.
In your
Who asked me to God? Yes, she'll be my. Who calls me to come to Budapest with her to do a film. And I say a crazy story because I was already booked on something else, and it was very awkward for me to make a quick change. But I did because I remembered my mom's conversation, and I went, "Oh, maybe I'm supposed to." And so what happened is, while I was over there, it was very strainful on my marriage. It probably, if we wouldn't have both been saved during that period, it might have ended in divorce. You know, it was really stressful. But one night I was Skyping my husband, and he said, he pulls out the Bible and he goes, I'm reading the Bible. And I was like, oh my gosh. And I was like, I want to read one too. And he goes, well, you're in a hotel room.
And it's a good old King James in there.
when some hotels, some of the modern ones now, will only know one, that the Thompson Hotel in Nashville, they don't have a Bible in it. And I even called downstairs complaining.
Yeah.
Because so many times that's where, when you're finally alone, and, you know, it's like, so it's so important to have one in there, you know? And that's how, after we got off Skyping, I opened the book and booked Matthew, and I would start reading it, and Jesus' healings, and that all started flooding back to me, you know, because I knew Jesus as a little girl. You know, I have like poems that I wrote to him.
Oh, awesome.
And so I was just like, that was my Holy Spirit moment where I felt him wishing to me. And I couldn't believe that I forgot.
He's good about reminding.
And so that was really a defining moment in my life. And then, you know, because I went to work the next day, and now I was, you know, my eyes were completely open. And I was in Hungary, which is a predominantly Catholic Christian country.
And we're very recently out of communism. My daughter and I used to go to Slovakia to teach English and vacation Bible school with the church here in the Valley. And yeah, we'd always land in Budapest, and they'd come and get us.
Yes.
And that entire region, the Czech Republic, Slovak Republic, Romania, all of them were just so in the 90s still communist. It's so, I mean, I guess that's a while ago now. I'm old.
Yeah, by the time I got there, it wasn't, but it was about 15 years after that period. You know, but so they were really, when I went to work the next day, going telling everybody, Jesus was a healer. Jesus was a healer. Like, I was just so like, and the Hungarians were like, yeah, we know. But then my American crew, there were only a few of us, they were all like, oh no, she's
Bible hanger.
Oh, what happened to her? But one of my dearest, closest friends who was on that, who at the time was a prodigal too, come forward, she would recommit her life back to Jesus too. So the Holy Spirit, he was at work in Los Angeles and in Budapest at the same time, and it's just an amazing experience. So going way forward, because I need the long to the beauty part. And so then I still in my career, but now I'm a Christian in my career, or a recommitted Christian in my career as a makeup artist in a environment that is often anti-Christian, or they'll make fun of, you know, Jesus, or and, you know, but the good news is that God moved Dawn and I out to Georgia about in 2016. And so we have a budding film industry here, but there's a lot of believers here.
Yeah.
Way more than out when be out there, you know. And like the Dr. Jeremiah out of San Diego, he always says, "You cannot be a secret agent, Christian," you know. And that's
Huh?
that's how some of my friends in Los Angeles feel, though, because they feel if they aren't, that they may not be hired. I mean, we even had one friend say, "Aren't you afraid to share your faith on Facebook because somebody might not hire you?" And we're just like, no, like, we don't want that person to hire us.
If we deny him before men, you know, it's us having gainful employment and provision comes from him in the first place. So we'll be provided for, whatever that looks like.
Exactly. And so I found the more that I do that, and just not in a just in a I guess you'd call it maybe like what you were saying earlier about when you invite people onto the show, they don't have to necessarily be a believer. Just having a acceptance, honest, I care about you conversation with people around you. I find that that people don't. They seem to like me more, I feel.
I think it's interesting that even people who, I don't think the bulk of the world doesn't not believe there's at least a God. Okay. Then you go from there. Whether they believe in the God of the Bible, whether they believe in various other things, but they understand what you saying, I will take that before my God in prayer, or this is my faith worldview. They, typically people who have a faith worldview will show one another some respect for that. I get it that in the news, people who are adversaries about that kind of thing, go after each other. But I think for the most part, general, middle of the road and all factions of society, appreciate somebody having at least a faith worldview as opposed to not at all. So
I think so. But by the time we moved out here, I was like, okay, God, do I get to leave this, the beauty film industry now? Like, when am I going to start doing kingdom work? What's going on, And what I didn't really realize is that was part of it. That was the kingdom work, was being right there, because it had me, like, even when I felt that God wanted me to step out and start sharing my writing, starting a blog and on social media. And that was in 2021, the blog, and then 2022, social media. And I was so resistant about the beauty part because I didn't know how to put the two together, faith and beauty. I really didn't. And so I was just struggling so hard with that. And people around me kept affirming that, no, it's the beauty and it's the faith. It's that. And then I finally realized, going back into the environment that was working, because I think that sometimes God brings us to faith at different times. In a sense, why I say that is sometimes a new believer is just so, like, especially when it's later on in life, you see clearly what you were before and what you are after. And you see that line, you see all the things that don't belong in your house anymore. You just see it so clearly. And so in my area, I needed to see that clearly, because I had a lot of really bad, I guess Apostle Paul calls it old clothes, old habits.
Yeah.
Old, I would say before, I had one side where I was very sweet and nice on the outside, but inside I was ambitious, I was striving, I was so jealous, I was, I wanted a gold statue. I got one, but I wanted
Did you?
Well, not not an Academy Award, but an Emmy Award and some Guild Awards. But, and but why I wanted them was for good reasons. It was because
he can work that out for good, just like he worked out the trauma in your youth. Because look at him putting you there, even if it was only the one person in Hungary that was brought back to him, that's enough for him. He would have gone to the house, even if it was just you or just me. So he goes after the one sheep. And that is awesome. I mean, and it's awesome that you acknowledge that you don't want that to become like idol worship or whatever, going after those. But how it's playing out in your life that he used those is so awesome.
Well, and then, so working it back, like I guess how I look at it is when to get to the point where I could let go, even though I'm a Christian, I'm doing my sanctification walk. How do I let go of those things, And so he, in his wisdom, starts taking things away from me. Like first, Los Angeles, all my ties, all my old temptations, and then brings me to Georgia, which I do love out here. But then right when we get out here, we're working on this huge movie, and we're going to Scotland to come on the top of the world. I've arrived again, and takes it away. But he didn't. I mean, obviously, create a career assassination that would take me out. My husband and I out for a while, but he does use things for our good. He allows things that he knows will be for our good, and so what that did is it took us away from that, because I was starting to probably make it an idol again, and I was still wearing some of my old clothes of ambition and striving and jealousy, with just, and so he took it away, but that made our faith only stronger. And then my husband went to record an album, which we were going to do anyway, and I was supposed to sing a lot on it. We're up in Knoxville, Tennessee, and the right hearing in my right ear goes. It's called sensorial hearing loss. Nobody really knows what causes it. There's a bunch of different theories. It's gone. We're going in the recording studio, I can't hear a word now. This is I can wear headphones now. I have these, I call them supersonic hearing aids. They're amazing. But I can actually wear earphones and I can hear in it. And I couldn't do that though. This was probably 2018. Oh, so I, because I was just off balance, and I had to go through all these treatments of injections in the eardrum and hyperbaric oxygen chamber treatments. And after about a year, the brain's amazing, stable, back to work, the pandemic happens, takes
everything away. He's like, if you're not going to listen when I take one thing away, I'm going to take it off.
And so now I'm at home, and that's when I really was, I think, surrendered to his plan, whatever, your way, your will. And, that's when the seeds of the writing all started. And after the pandemic, when I returned back to work, that's when I saw the why I was placed where I was placed. And I guess I can compare it to, because I had one friend once call and go, "Are you still working in Hollywood? How can you work in that place?" And I just said, a soldier in the Army doesn't get to pick his
battlefield.
And I'm a soldier in God's army. He's put me there for a reason, And that kind of gave me on one side, I guess, a boldness to share faith when the door opens, But also it gave me a clarity that I'm still working out, taking off some of the getting rid of the old clothes and habits and things. So like even last spring, when a younger makeup artist got a promotion over me, and I just felt that poison shooting through me of jealousy, right? And I didn't even want her job, but I wanted. And my husband, he's a makeup artist, she with me, and he looks at me, and because he knows me so well, he's like, "Don't you, you know?" And I walked outside, and I went for a walk with God, because that's where we talk, and said, "Help me, help me." And he sent me a vision of green pastures, and that he was my shepherd, and basically saying, you can walk in this sound studio, on this sound stage, in this makeup trailer, wherever you're at in life, at the grocery store, anywhere, but you're also at the same time in my green pasture next to my still waters, and I'm your shepherd.
That's the only way we can stay. I mean, I've heard like different pastors or Christian authors or writers or speakers talk about how everybody likes the mountaintop, but nobody likes the pastures or the valleys. And a pastor is in a valley. So they're looking at that provision in the middle of your valley. And I think that's awesome.
Yeah. So that kind of, working it out, that was like a huge breakthrough for me, because then whenever I'd start to get any of those old habits or temptations or wounds open, I know immediately to take it to Jesus and encounter him.
I like
Yeah, and then that way, so that's part of like, and then as I'm writing this book, because it's been about writing a book about that, about Judean faith, and with my blog and blog series, it's been about helping women see themselves as God's beautiful daughter, and what does that mean to people, and then meeting with different guests to walk the walk together, basically, and so it's really had me try to say, what does this mean? And then being given lessons alongside to tell me what it means, and then I don't know, sharing those people, hopefully that will give somebody, if they're ever in my situation or whatever, give them a little hope, give them a little that their whatever, trial or adversity or old past things we have, that we can get through them.
That's the work together for good, for sure. And I think that's what everyone's story is about. And I think it's almost to a person, male and female, that I talk to, that it's almost like, I don't even care if it's just one. I want to know that all of this is working out for good for anyone. And especially yourself. I think the first person that gets healed through our walk is us, of course, because how can we sell, if you will, what we don't have? And I'm not saying that means we're 100% whole when we do this, because again, it is an ongoing process to not let, like you say, your old clothes come back up, or for, some of us, maybe it's a thought battle. And so I think that's awesome. That is exactly what our purpose is supposed to produce as fruit from us, is that obedience, that willing to press into him, and that willingness to say, even though I can't see how it's going to work together for good, I'm going to trust you that it will, because there isn't a reason that what we've gone through. And we can get churchy and talk about how since the fall, there's evil, there's disease, there's death. Those things are all true. But when people are in the middle of it, where the rubber meets the road, They want to understand the genuine relationship with Christ and how that helps you where you're at, as opposed to just thinking that there's some sort of I dream of Jeannie moment where you just blink and everything's okay, because that isn't how it is. It isn't just all of a sudden puppies and rainbows. So, well, I think where you're at is just so incredible. I like your blog and the newsletter and in your podcast. I do want to make two actually, now that you've started talking. One, I used to do makeup when my daughter was a baby for weddings. I worked with a young lady who did hair, and so I was doing the makeup. And it was fun. I don't know that I was great at it, but I was definitely one of those people who don't believe you should do something trendy because you're going to have to look back on those pictures. So I was just pretty classic. But I have a niece who, prior to the pandemic, had looked into and gone and visited in Los Angeles makeup schools because she's really good at horror makeup. And she's really good at that kind of stuff. And that's what she wanted to do. And when she walked through the school, apparently one of the guys that was one of the leaders of it was right there and actually chatted with her. And so she was so stoked. I mean, she was quitting her job here in Arizona. She was ready to go. And then the pandemic hit, and, so her life took a different turn. But that is a love of hers. I mean, she and her boyfriend win the Halloween contests at this big resort here every year. Lots of people are tired of her. They'd like her to get a cold.
It's a nice creative thing. For me, the actual art of it, like when I'm doing somebody's makeup, I love that part usually. No, I do. There's just this, it feels good to take care of somebody, and then especially to make them feel good about themselves. I mean, I've had this one actor once say to me, and he just thanked me so much. He goes, "You don't know what it's like to look like me and have to go on camera." And I was like,
oh my. Oh, how precious. Yeah, I know she looks at it that way too. I had her do some makeup for my book cover. And now I've been told by my coaches that I may or may not, they say most agents and publishers won't let you keep your book cover, won't let you keep your title, this, that, and the other. But the Lord has broken boundaries through this entire process. So I'm leaving it in his hands because he gave me the vision for the cover and the title. So, and it's our story. I call it my story, his story, our story.
So I love that. Yeah, no, I love that.
So anyway, hon, how I end every podcast okay, is by asking for a nugget, asking for that one thing. And sometimes when some of us are a little more mature, there's probably a bunch, but one in particular that you wish someone had told you sooner or that you had found out sooner.
Let me think. No, he's good at these.
There's not right or wrong.
I know. Let's see. Told me sooner. I guess, it's sort of the thing when what would you say to your younger self, maybe?
Right. I always say buy Amazon stock in those jokes online.
Absolutely, exactly. Exactly. I think it would be, I'm trying to remember what, I think it would be don't give up on God because he doesn't give up on you, I think it would be that even when things are going rough or whatever, just to know, what really it is, the personal relationship with Jesus, because I didn't really understand that like I did later, like I do now, and how when you have that, and the big part of that is meeting every day with him, you can't just go, okay,
I'm good for now.
Yeah. But it's just, and maybe that's it. Meet with him every day, and then you won't forget. Then you won't walk away. Then you won't turn to other things, you know, than him.
I think if we understand too that, so many people want when something bad happens to blame God, even if they never believed in him or never had a relationship with him, all of a sudden God is real because we need somebody to blame. But that understanding that stuff is going to happen to all of us. And if we can remember the source of why some things happen and that it's not going to be taken away all the time and that it's the character building part of it and that he is the source of our hope and strength to walk those things, not the cause or putting those on us. And I get that if everything happens under his purview, but we are going to have trials and tribulations because even when he came to earth as Jesus, that happened. So that's an awesome nugget. And I think everybody who's listening could find viable something to hang on to in that, even if they don't yet believe in God.
Absolutely.
So this has been just so awesome. And I love that we got together. I love that we see each other on social media a lot.
I know.
I want to thank you all for coming to class. All of Deborah's connection information, her website, her blog, newsletter, podcast, all of it will be in the show notes. And I would appreciate if you go over and listen to the episode and rate, review, subscribe, download, like, throw a comment out. I love any interaction. So I really do appreciate all of you being here and taking the time to listen today. I hope you enjoyed yourself. And if you did, show me in a big way. Go give me a good review. So I want to thank you all for coming to class. And class dismissed.